that you don't escape truth by leaving the planet truth. You just leave the people you've destroyed
Yep,
behind.
yep, yep, yep.
Denzel then turned back to the courtroom and spoke with the same quiet conviction that made him a legend on screen. But this time, the emotion was raw. If Sean Combs had made it onto that shuttle, he would have disappeared into the stars. No charges, no trial, just more silence, more victims, and the world would have called it ambition. He continued, there are those who will say this is all too wild to believe, that a man like Diddy couldn't have done this. But those people haven't seen what I've seen, haven't heard what I've heard. He paused, then added, and those people didn't hear what he said to me years ago while drunk at one of his parties. He looked at me and said, you know why I'll never get caught? Because I'm not of this world. The courtroom froze because it didn't sound like ego anymore. It sounded like a man who truly believed he could ascend beyond consequence. I came here today, Denzel said, not to be a hero, not to be a father, to end this madness, for the people he hurt, for the children who had no voice, for every person who didn't survive the climb. He held the paper in front of him, the same one he had carried when he entered the courtroom, because if he made it to space, it would have never ended.
Never ended.
And with that, Denzel Washington stood, stepped down from the witness stand, and walked out, quietly, slowly, without a single glance back. Not a sound followed him, because some moments don't need applause. They need silence. And for the first time since this trial began, even Diddy, hands over his face, said nothing.
Wow. I knew Denzel had to went through something, but I didn't know he had to went through all that death dealing with P. Diddy. Wow. All the lives that P. Diddy fucked up. All I can do is say, wow. Mm, mm, mm. Crazy.
You thought about giving me some shares, boss? Anything you need, boss.
Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly
You're
advised.
looking very
The
sharp, boss.
following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press. The courtroom wasn't ready for what happened next. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, global icon, former wrestling champ, blockbuster superstar, entered the courtroom with a face few had ever seen. Broken, vulnerable, scared. He wasn't there to promote a movie. He was there to confess. As he took the stand, he described a horrifying series of initiations that allegedly took place behind the scenes of his rise to fame. What shocked everyone wasn't just what he endured, it was who orchestrated it. Sean "Diddy" Combs. The Rock broke down in tears as he revealed Diddy's bizarre control of the early Hollywood film, including a twisted ritual that involved eating raw monkey brains, being locked in basements, and being forced to prove loyalty through humiliation. What Dwayne said under oath left the courtroom speechless. No spectacle. There was no announcement, no press warning, no whispers in the hallway. The courtroom had already been shaken by the testimonies of stars like Monique, Denzel Washington, and Jamie Foxx. But when the side door opened and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson walked in, the room didn't just freeze, it broke. Gone was the smiling, confident, motivational figure known to millions. This was not the man who clapped back with red carpets or picked up fans in wrestling arenas. The man walking in now looked haunted, tired, hollow. His trademark brow furrowed, not in bravado, but in emotional pain. He carried no papers, no notes, just the weight of something he had never spoken aloud. Even Diddy, seated beside his defense team, turned and seemed to stiffen. His lawyers whispered in rapid fire, visibly caught off guard. Prosecutors, meanwhile, exchanged glances. They had kept his name quiet for a reason, because this moment was going to change everything. As Dwayne took the stand, he hesitated to sit. He placed both hands on the railing and looked at the judge. "May I say something before we begin?" The judge listened. He faced the gallery, then turned to the jury, then to Diddy. "I don't want to be here, but I have to be. I've lived with something that's eaten away at me for almost 20 years. And the truth is, I'm still scared. But I'm more scared of what happens if I stay silent." The court went still. Dwayne was sworn in, then finally sat. His voice was low and gravelly, not from theatrics, but emotion barely contained. "You all know me as The Rock, the guy who never breaks. But I'm about to break now, and I need everyone in this room to understand. What I'm about to say isn't just about Sean Combs. It's about how he got away with it for so long." His lips quivered as he said it. "I was one of them. One of the ones who thought playing along meant survival. I played along. And I paid a price no one ever saw." And with that, the room, the trial, the entire cultural conversation shifted. Because Dwayne Johnson was about to describe a Hollywood initiation so bizarre, so humiliating,
Friedlander white coats with whippet torture. By the way, not pretty, but here are the results so far. Friedlander is moving fast with that product he closed the skull with. He's already loaded it up on a cargo plane and is getting it ready for relocation to South America out of LSIA. So we're doing a hijack. Mid-air. Why? Because this is too big a robbery to do anywhere else. No witnesses, no ground chase, no more ideas about fucking with us.
Every door in Hollywood. I didn't question it when he said, "Let's talk off the record." I thought it was just business. This details how Diddy invited him to industry night. Exclusive private gatherings hosted at his mansions in Los Angeles and Miami. They weren't wild parties at first. It was chill, champagne, handshake, producers, studio people, casting directors. Everyone said, "Diddy's the guy." But over time, it changed. It started stopped feeling like networking.
If you get
and
close
started
enough to the
feeling
back
like
of the plane, you can
that's
remotely
what
open the door through our
Say
signal
things
box.
like, "Are you
Right there
down
on
for
that
a
dash.
break?
Got it?
Would you bleed for it?" I laughed it off.
Once you're close enough, use the signal box to start the hack. You gotta stay in range. Then as soon as the door opens, it's mid-air collision time, baby!
The only one who heard the word was a group of silent gangsters in active black suits and no conversation. Waiting for their leader. When Diddy entered, he allegedly turned down the lights and played audio through hidden speakers. It was Diddy's voice on loop asking, "Are you worthy? Are you ready? Would you eat when I feed you?"
That was nuts!
I thought it was
Everybody
awesome.
in here? Okay, let's press the console. Shoot, dude!
You guys are sensitive. But deep down, I felt my gut squeeze. It was wrong. Then came the first test. Diddy asked Wayne to leave him alone at an undisclosed
Shit.
location outside LA.
Can you fly this thing?
I wanted to say no, but my publicist said, "This could be the meeting that changes your life." Wayne looked straight at the jury. Turns out,
I do so enjoy our sessions together,
it changed everything. Just not how I thought.
but I'm afraid your
The
time
moment
is
Wayne Johnson
up.
uttered the words, "monkey brains,"
Forget
the
him,
courtroom's
it's the
energy
chemicals we're here
shifted
for.
from stunned
Can you land this
to
fucking thing or
horrified.
not?
He took a long pause before speaking. "This is the part I've never said out loud. Not to my wife, to my friends, not even to my therapist.
Come in, Big Bird. Come in, Big Bird. This is Daxter. So Ray's requesting you bring that fucker down and we make bank with the goods. We have what we want. Now we just gotta land the plane and unload it. Think you can bring that thing down at Sandy Shores?
He was escorted by two men into a dark airlift where the walls were sealed in black. The only light came from the floor of the lantern glowing red. Around the located were 5 men in suits, all silent, and at the head of the table, black, included a few officer with something Wayne said, "Black hole." Then came the threat.
This is some hot fresh meat. We're gonna be set for a long time. All of us. The whole troop. Oh man, we're gonna celebrate.
On it were pieces of raw ether, still steaming, no season, just Then he said, "Everyone who stayed in pain, everyone who didn't vanish." Then he told the men of the team, said, "Let him feel the pressure." Then he tried to walk out. The door was locked.
Okay, I see you. Easy now. Bring it on in.
I even tried laughing. No one laughed with me. Then Diddy handed him the stool. He leaned in and said, "Hollywood is not about talent. It's about obedience." At this point, Wayne began to cry on the stand. I was scared. I was humiliated. And I was alone. With shaking hands, he lifted the spoon to his mouth and bit down.
Whoa!
Remember the
This is the
taste.
most beautiful
I just
thing I've
remember
ever
the
seen in
sound.
my fucking
The
life!
laughing, the chewing. And then silence. He sat at that table for 30
Where's that
minutes.
fucking
while they watched
Freeburger?
him
He
finish the
bailed.
ritual.
Ah, no use crying over spilled shit. We got
Diddy
work to do.
reportedly stood up
Come on,
and clapped.
help me load this stuff in the truck.
"Welcome to level 2, he said. Wayne looked at the jury again. I walked out of there feeling like a part of me had died. Not because of what I ate, but because of what I gave up to eat it.
You heard that?
The courtroom was silent because this wasn't just a story of abuse.
Fucking cops!
It was a
You
man
deal with them, I'll
feeling
keep
how
loading the
far
truck.
people are
You
pushed
heard them, man!
when
Keep the
silence
fuckers
is the
back!
price of success. Wayne Johnson's voice became steadier as he explained what came after the disturbing ritual. He described what he now recognized as psychological conditioning, not humiliate him, but to strip away his autonomy and reconstruct the approval of those in control. They started treating me differently, not better. Like I was one of them now. But at the same time, they needed to test that I'd stay quiet, that I'd obey. He was probably invited to what he thought was business retreat, including championship. But when he arrived, he found no studio executives, only other entertainers, some early in their careers, some already prominent, all seemingly unscrupulous. Wayne said they were placed in isolated rooms with no windows, phones on tables, music blared on a loop for hours. The only clue came at unpredictable intervals, and they were given instructions to memorize strange scripts and affirmations about surrendering to a higher power of success, and to keep only when it was. I thought it was performance training, maybe some unacceptable stuff, but then it was about submission. They wanted us to steer with other people, to reasonably confident. Because I thought maybe it was crazy. But if I told them, they said I was educated. And it wasn't just happening to me. We see each other in the hallway and give this look. We were not the mistake. But it was different. But after this experience, he noticed himself in sleep and in paranoia. How could he be walking? It wasn't just about acting anymore. It felt like he was being conditioned, imperfect with a product molded by a tiny hand behind the person's hand. And it really changed. The silence completely went out. Wayne Johnson then described what he referred to as being behind the curtain. According to his testimony, after participating in what he called the obedience process, he was suddenly flooded with opportunities. They came with strings. I started getting offers out of nowhere. Things I wasn't even supposed to be
Just a couple
considered for.
more. Keep them off
People
me.
told me I didn't have jobs. I didn't get the food. All wanting to be a major studio head. They didn't talk about my talent. They said, we here will someone who plays the game. That's all that matters. When Wayne questioned certain contract terms or requested changes, he was often welcome that his options were better if he didn't stay on good terms with certain people. I realized these weren't offers. They were assignments. He said Diddy held influence far beyond music. He wasn't just a producer. He had investments, relationships, stakes in companies, favors owed, and the unspoken rule was, if he wanted to blacklist it, it happened. He said he once declined an invite to an after-hours gathering, and the following week, his agent offered a major student who would be staying on the project at the last day. That's when I knew that I wasn't just expected. It was mandatory. Even the people around him were cautious. My managers, my lawyers, they all knew where the lines were.
What? That's phony. That's phony.
Okay, that's everything.
Man, that's some bullshit. You ain't gonna survive that, man. That's some bullshit. That's some bullshit.
Hey, I got a plan. You take this stuff, I'll
That's
get
some straight
the bills
bullshit.
from hell. Love you, Lucha. See you back in the freak shop.
It did nothing. One shot. Oh, better get your vest. Better get a vest. Better put a vest on. Better put a vest on. Better put something on. Better put something on. You better put something on.
This is the motherlode, people! We are gonna get so fucked! There's gonna be enough left over to spice up the city's water supply for months!
The House was being arrested, with security posted at every
That's bullshit, man.
guests were handed masks for theatrics, but for anonymity. It felt less like a party and more like an initiation. Time if someone else sees. He walked the perimeter of the event, uneasy. What he saw disturbed him. I thought he was scared.
There's still cops on us! We gotta shake them and get this all over to the freak
Moving
shop!
ways that didn't look like celebration. They looked lost. It's like they were surprised. He said that he saw a well-known actor crying in the corner. He was clutching his wrist.
I get enough
He said,
to get eaten now.
this is what it takes. That was the after. That was the part he said, the break. And I saw people underneath. All his feet because of what he saw. Because of the realization that he had been protected.
This is our fucking acid! Cops can't have any!
I could stay silent. As he added, it seemed that then. It made me remember who I was before all this. Before the fear. Before the shame. He looked at the judge and said, that was the night I decided. If anyone ever asked me what I saw, I wouldn't lie. And now, on the witness stand, he kept that promise. As Wayne Johnson sat on the stand, the courtroom remained painfully still. Every eye was locked on him, not because of his fame, but because of his truth. He took a breath and looked straight ahead. People ask why we stay silent, he said. Why actors, musicians, athletes, people with platforms don't speak up when we see things that aren't right. He looked down and sighed. I'll tell you why. Because it's terrifying. He explained that for much of his early Hollywood career, he believed the best way to survive was to keep moving, smile, perform, and avoid questioning those in control. You're taught not to ruffle feathers, not to say names. You think, if I speak, I lose everything I built. He said his silence wasn't about guilt, it was about fear of retaliation, of being blackballed, of being labeled difficult or unreliable. It's not always threats. Sometimes it's just watching someone disappear. Watching roles dry up, calls stop, contracts vanish. He referenced other actors who vanished from the spotlight after walking away from the inner circle. He said they weren't crazy or unstable. They were tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of being owned.
Until we forget how our
Wayne described the internal cost of keeping secrets. He said it made him anxious, isolated, unsure of who to trust. You feel like you're part of something you never signed up for. But leaving means burning bridges no one else will ever rebuild for you. He paused again, voice cracking slightly. And worst of all, you start to question whether you were complicit just by surviving. He nodded toward Cassie Ventura's legal team and added, seeing her come forward, that changed everything. It reminded me that silence protects the wrong people. As the courtroom watched Dwayne Johnson sit taller, more confident than before, he spoke not as The Rock, but as a man who had been reshaped by his experiences. There's this idea that once you make it, you're untouchable, that success means you're no longer vulnerable. But the truth is, the higher you climb, the harder it is to speak. He said he built a brand on strength, resilience, and positivity, but behind the scenes, he often felt powerless. I couldn't talk about what I saw, what I experienced, because it didn't fit the image. He admitted that for years he stayed silent because the cost of speaking seemed too great. But in recent years, especially as more survivors came forward in the industry, he began to see his silence differently. It stopped being self-preservation, he said. It started to feel like betrayal. He recalled a young fan once telling him, "You're the guy who never quits." And that sentence stuck with him, because, in some ways, he had quit. Quit on his younger self, his principles, and those who were still trapped in systems of power they didn't choose. Dwayne wiped away a tear. "I'm not testifying to cancel someone. I'm here because I've been silent long enough, and I don't want anyone who looks up to me to think silence is strength." He said this wasn't about blame, it was about accountability. And I want people in power to know, we see you now. You're not invisible anymore. The courtroom grew tense as Dwayne Johnson turned to face Sean "Diddy" Combs directly. "I want to say this to you, man to
Hi,
man,"
what do you need?
because I've carried
No
it for
problem,
too
it's on its
long.
way.
He didn't raise his voice. He didn't gesture wildly. But his words cut deeper because of their calm conviction. "You made me believe I had to sacrifice myself to succeed, that I had to surrender my integrity just to be allowed in the room. And I believed it." He shook his head, eyes locked on Diddy. But that wasn't power. That was fear, disguised as influence. He spoke about the others who had crossed paths with Diddy, the ones who hadn't found the strength to speak, the ones still suffering in silence. "I'm speaking for them now, for the people who were told they had no choice, who were told that dignity and dreams couldn't live in the same place." He paused. "You don't get to define my legacy, not anymore." As he stepped down from the stand, his final words echoed in the hushed courtroom. "It ends here, with the truth." Dwayne left the courtroom not as a victim, not as a headline, but as someone who had reclaimed his story, no longer afraid, no longer silent. And the world watching knew something in Hollywood had just shifted. As the bailiff guided Dwayne Johnson away from the witness stand, a hushed ripple passed through the gallery. But before he stepped beyond the swinging courtroom doors, Dwayne paused, not to look at Diddy, not to speak to the press, but to face the room one last time. "I want to leave one more thing on record," he said, voice resolute. "This story, my story, isn't just about me. It's not about stardom or scandals or headlines. It's about the people who never get to sit in this chair. The ones who didn't survive long enough to speak. The ones still stuck behind the curtain, terrified that no one will believe them." He turned slightly, addressing not just the jury, not just the judge, but the very culture that enabled the silence for so long. For decades, Hollywood has been built on a lie, on the myth that power justifies abuse, that success comes with a price we can't question. I was afraid I'd lose everything. But the truth is, I never had anything if I didn't have myself. A soft murmur of support broke out from one corner of the courtroom. Lawyers glanced around, unsure whether to intervene. The judge didn't stop him. Wayne nodded once more. "To anyone out there watching this, still wondering if it's safe to speak up, let this moment be your signal. The silence is over. We're not afraid anymore." With that, he walked out of the courtroom. No cameras followed. No handlers rushed to spin a narrative. Just a man who finally chose to speak. And a system that, for the first time in a long time, had no idea how to silence him.
There it is. That's it. That's all. The Rock